Hello and welcome back. We are continuing our series of episodes on getting your Python certification, and we're getting really close to the end. This may be the last one other than sort of like a summary. And the thing that I want to swing back around to is when we did functions, we touched on properties of a function, and we did this with modules as well. But I want to make sure that we go back through those because there are some questions on those that I found, at least in the sample test. And I think it's good to make sure you've touched on each of those. And there's several. So for this example, I just created this function called myfunc. It's got a couple parameters. It prints something, and let me return something too, just to be complete. So there you go. So it prints it, it returns it. So if I call myfunc 2, 3, then we'll see what happens. So if I do that, the first one I look at is __str. So if we do Python 3 extra, is that what I call it? There we go. Then we see that I called it, it did the little print, it returns it. If I do it as a string, then right now, since I haven't defined it in any specific way, then it's going to give me basically it's the name and the memory address that exists at. So string is not terribly interesting, generally speaking, for functions. But you can do. Let me give you a couple of these. But another one we can do is we can do doc. And let me do this one at a time. So let's do doc. And there's nothing there. Here, there's nothing, there is no doc that's available. And we haven't really talked about this, but what I can do is I can come up here and mention that prints A plus B, plus B and returns it. So now if I come through, it may be without that. Sorry, it's a string. So the string is a function. Oh, let's do this. Actually, let's get more specifically. So what we see here is some of these underscores are functions and some are attributes. You can see here string is a function, but if I call it, then it gives me this. With the doc, I can actually see comments. And if I do this triple double quote, then that is a built-in doc. It is built-in comments for your function, your method, if you're dealing with your class. So it's one of those things we haven't touched on when you talk about comments and documentation, but that triple double quote, which is itself sort of difficult, allows you to do that kind of stuff. And allows you to also then have it exposed so you can come back later and do documentation related stuff through the doc. So let's let's go here and let's do another. The next one we'll do is let's go ahead and do code. I think we have done code. And it's a code is an object. I think I need to get, let's see. I don't know if that's going to work. Let's try this real quick. I think you could get it. No, it just gives me a code object. So it doesn't give it in I don't get in a string format, but what I do get is I get this code object. So I could actually, when we talk about lambdas and things like that, I could actually do stuff with that. I can actually push stuff around and actually call things based on that. Again, it's so that you can get all of the different, you can actually dissect basically your functions. Annotations, I didn't see anything on it, but there are, and we haven't really gone into annotations too much, but you can get that if you have those. Call is going to actually call it. So instead of doing this way, you could actually do it as a call, which makes very little sense. We've talked about class. If we look at defaults, that's one I'm pretty sure that's up there. Let's see. So we did doc. So we're seeing what we did. Oh, we did name. Oh, let's do qual name. Let's do that first. Well, if we do defaults, just because I was taking that in order, there aren't any because I didn't do it. But if I do A equals 0, B equals 0, then I get to see what my default values are. So I can see what the defaults are. If I'm trying to dynamically create stuff, I can figure it out through there. Let's do qual name. Oh, we did string, we didn't do name. So if I do, let's look at name and qual name. If we look at those two, then it's going to be the same one. It basically depends on whether or not you're within a module or something like that. Then you can see things that get aliased out. But if you want to actually get the name of the function, so string is a string of the function, or underscore str. It's the function itself. It's not the name. So normally you're going to want to work with the name instead of the name or the qual name. We've talked about module. Let's see, defaults, code, and note here this is it's the compiled function body, but you can also actually replace stuff on the fly. Let's do globals, and what we're going to see here, if we jump to this one, is starting here to here. These are all the different things we can call on it. And we've seen this before with when we're looking at classes. But we can see here that it's like some of the things we've seen. I've got name, a main, a doc, which is a none. What package you're in, loader, blah, 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 blah. We talked about applications. Let's do spec. And so let's pick up a couple of these. Let's go look at spec. And let's look at, let's see, and then let's do file. So if we look at those two, it doesn't have a spec attribute. Even though it is there, it's because it's none. Oh, there it is, because it is none, but I could write to it. File, and it's going to show what file it's in. So let's get that. Oh, it doesn't have it, which is interesting, even though it says here, oh, it's a global. These are the globals available to it. So I can take so I can see, it's not this. If I do this, then I get to see it. So I'm sorry, these are all the globals that are available within that function. So we've got dictionary is one that we, let's go here, do dict, which is my func. So if we do the dictionary, let's take a look at that guy. So see here, it doesn't have anything. There's really not anything notable of it. Where'd it go? But it's basically for if I had an additional attribute within the function. If I did, let's try like name equals this function, I think then we will see that it'll show up. Oh, no, it didn't, because it's not. Oh, because it's an attribute of the function that we could add to. We haven't. So it would be more like myfunc dot custom equals custom value. And I think now I'll see it. Yep, there we go. So I can remember these things are all dynamic, so I can actually add stuff. I can slap all kinds of attributes onto things. And so dictionary gives me that. Let's see, closure will be the last one of these. Whoop, let's do it this way. And let's take a look at that after our little custom value. And there isn't any, because what you get from closure is it's bindings. This would be if you are if you're using some sort of hints and stuff like that, then I think you're going to end up getting what you see. KW defaults. Let's go ahead and do that one. Whoop. There. Do that. Whoop. And let's go ahead and take that one in, and we don't have any set up there as well. And this goes into, depending on how you build out your function, whether you have some variable arguments and things of that nature. You really, the one I ran into was bases, and that would be, let me see if I can get a class example real quick. Let me do, because I think I have simple and less simple. Let's take those two guys. Let's add those into here. And now do oh, there, dot bases. I think I can do it at the class level. We're going to find out. Yes, I can. Oh, it's an object, so I need to do simple ls. Whoop. I need to do that. Whoop. Dope. I gotta remember how I'm doing stuff. Oh, and so he doesn't have, oh, so I do have to do it up at the class level. And I should see, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't actually do inheritance. My mistake. So let's say less simple inherits from simple. Let me remember the. Let me just do it this way. Let's just take these guys. That'll be easier. Extras. Let's go here. Whoop. And we're going to bring this guy. And now let's do less simple. And now we see that it actually has a base of simple. Before, so if I do simple, whoop, which is what I had before, then there's nothing. It's only an object. You can just see where that is our object. Now, if I do, and let me show you this. So if I do less simple, and then I even do even less simple, which inherits from less simple. And then come in here, because this gets to the point of the actual question they had. So if I look at even less simple, when I look at bases, it doesn't give me the hierarchy. It gives me what it inherits from. So if I use multiple inheritance, so if I did less simple and simple, then it's going to show me both of them. But this shows you when you do bases, this is what directly do you inherit from. It doesn't necessarily show you the inheritance hierarchy. It is what is your parent. And that which, we see every class, the parent is at least object. And that was one of the things on the test, or at least the example that I looked at. So these are things that came up as items that were on the test that I had not covered as much in some of these prior ones. Another caveat, as this may be, as I said, I may do one more. We'll have to see. I'll see how I feel about it or what I come across when I go through doing the certification test. Actually, I'll probably do a couple of samples and maybe even take the test before I do a wrap-up review of this series. Another thing that I've noticed in looking through, taking some of the questions, is read them thoroughly. There are some that I guess I would call trick questions because they do something that either in the name or in like maybe overriding a variable or something like that. It looks very straightforward, but if you're not paying close attention to the variable names and things like that, then you'll get confused fairly easily. Another one is to know, which we haven't spent a ton of time on. You've seen some examples of it, is when things are invalid. When you're going to get errors, such as I probably had one up here, not too far back. Yeah, kinds of things like this, where you're going to get an error of some sort, as opposed to the code actually running, or the code and that would be things like if you do divide by 0 and things like that. Knowing what are you going to see? What is it going to tell you roughly? So if I go to here and I do 1 over 0, string of 1 over 0. Well, actually, I don't even have to do that. I can just do x equals 1 divided by 0. Then I'm going to get a division by 0 error. So those sorts of things, be sure you're sort of comfortable with what's going to blow it up and what is going to give you something else. And some of it is math stuff. So if I do that, then I note here that, okay, that's just going to give me 0 over 1. Those are the things that I think show up in sort of understanding the exceptions. They can be stuff that we overlook a little bit, but when we get into the test, those are the kinds of things they will ask you about. And when you look at passing, just having more comfort with those, and particularly this is if you do a lot of examples, you do a lot of coding, just sort of flying through, not copying and pasting stuff, but actually going through and writing and modifying code. You'll run into enough of these that they will become sort of second nature to you. They'll seem like much easier questions, which goes to going through this series is, I would think, very helpful. But because of the topics we cover, to give you a good idea of what needs to be in your head when you get into the certification. But that being said, there is a lot to be gained by playing around. So take these, and all this stuff is out in the repository, and you can see links to the GitHub repository for this in the show notes. Take a look at them. Maybe write a couple little apps of your own that just do some little utility things or something like that, playing around with a lot of this stuff so that you can get a feel for how these things work and really embed it in your mind a little bit more. There's one thing to hear about it and see it. It's usually a lot going to be retained better if you do it. And I think I've gone long enough. I've been long-winded enough this time, so I'm going to go play around and see if I can get my certification, and then come back around and let you guys know how it went. But go out there, Have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time.